has a working relationship with the University of Kansas. Producer Nancy Higgins went to KU to see how well it worked when fire engulfed the historic Hoch Auditorium.
The afternoon of Saturday, June 15th, brought heavy thunderstorms to Lawrence, Kansas. Those storms, with their wind and lightning, had the Lawrence Fire Department's 4 stations responding all over the city. Each shift runs with 4 four-person engine crews, 1 3-person ladder, 1 squad with 2 people, and 1 shift commander. On this day, all of those crews, plus many more, would be needed. At 15:07, a thunderstorm warning alert came over dispatch. 5 minutes later, firefighters were fighting a 2-alarm blaze at the Packer Plastics warehouse. Then, at 15:21, an alarm went off at the library on the University of Kansas campus. It seemed routine.
Engine 2 to dispatch. Be advised, we've already arrived on the scene at Watson, checked it out. We're going to terminate the incident. Engine 2 is in service and out Station 1.
You know, Engine 2, since you're up on the campus, since you're clearing, I have a report from the students that a bolt of lightning hit the top of Hoch Auditorium. Hoch Auditorium, it looks like it's smoldering. I don't know if they got a fire there or not. Since you're close, could you go by and check?
The 2 Captain will be responding to Hoch Auditorium. We do have numerous lightning strikes up here.
10-4.
And Engine 2 copied and said yes, with only 3 people they would swing by Hoch and check it out. And everybody that was on duty that day was already pretty preoccupied with the fire at Packer Plastics. And I remember kind of nonchalantly dismissing that and thinking, well, we'll be assigned to Packer here shortly. We were in Station 4 at the time, listening and monitoring the traffic.
Smoke sold from Hoch Auditorium roof.
Copy. Engine 4, respond to backup. Engine 2 at Hoch.
Engine 2 is on the scene. Engine 2 is assuming Hoch command. I've got a 4-story auditorium. I've got heavy smoke showing from the roof. We're going to go in with high-rise procedures. We're a 3-man company.
Already 1 person short, Engine 2 also knew everybody else was at Packer.
When we got there, we knew we didn't have any companies available whatsoever. There was 1 company, Squad 4, and as soon as I got there, within less than a minute, I knew that at that time it was a lightning strike. We were going to handle it as an outside roof fire, and that's what we assumed it was. We couldn't get access initially inside to the auditorium area, so I called for the squad to man the reserve ladder truck and respond in it. And what we, at that point, our goal was to try to find attic access and see if we did have a fire up there or if it was just outside roof area burning.
As Engine 2 was trying to find access to the 3rd level, other personnel were being freed up to respond from Packer Plastics to Hoch Auditorium. Firefighters on the interior worked their way from the northwest to the northeast corner of Hoch. They desperately wanted to knock down the fire inside this KU landmark.
And it's like any theater, it's a 3rd level balcony and there's seating there. We found our way down to where we could see under the balcony and see where the fire was at in the roof. And at this time we started to direct our stream toward the fire, and the stream didn't make it there. It was hot enough that it was just dissipating before it got there. It was the fire was large enough. The amount of water we had available at that time wasn't doing what it needed to do, and the fire didn't react at all. It was consuming the water quicker than I could put it on it.
At 15:39, 9 minutes after the initial dispatch, Car 300 with Battalion Chief Jerry Carr broke free from the Packer Plastics fire and was en route to Hoch. When Carr arrived, he was briefed by Captain Stark.
The biggest concerns we had was the crews I had inside. The other thing was the structure itself. It was built in 1927. We knew it was a problem. We knew we had a 15-foot wood attic with heavy wood. It was like a lumber yard with steel trusses. And we had a weak south wall with exposure. So that, but the manpower was the biggest thing, and I knew we had an incident that was going to go big. At the time, I was hoping that we could sustain an offensive attack and not have to swing to a defense.
But that hope dwindled. About 26 minutes into the fire, with crews inside, the heavy timber and steel trusses began to collapse.
Get out of there! Back out! Go ahead, command. Get that delete, get in there unmanned. Get it towards the roof. We're going to be evacuating the structure shortly. And dispatch, give me emergency traffic. We're evacuating the structure. We're going from an offensive to a defensive mode.
You could hear in the background, right behind us, a buildup, very fast. Something moving through the air. It was falling, and it was a really, just a big whoosh, and then kaboom. And the fellow that was with me heard it also. He gave a big yank on the hose, and that helped propel me out of the building, and we both flew out of there. The force of the falling ceiling blew us out of the building, and the doors slammed shut. And I remember my first thought was, I looked up and I said, boy, I hope I'm on the right side of these doors, because on the other side was a really fiery scene.
In those tense moments, command used emergency traffic tones, signaling everyone to await emergency communications.
When we go to emergency traffic, our dispatchers sound a fire alarm tone again, and then they repeat emergency traffic. That keys people inside to the tone to where they can listen. It's an alert mechanism to where if we've got hazardous conditions or on the fire ground itself, if we've had a collapse where we got people trapped, if we're going from an offensive or defensive mode, it's our way of getting everyone's attention. What we found is, and especially on a major fire ground as we had in this case, is that there's so many communications going on orally under sectors and everything, and commotion, that alerts people to listen for their radios, because it's important traffic.
Dispatch, give me a fire alarm tone for emergency traffic. Tone for emergency traffic. And all units at Hoch Auditorium, evacuate the structure. Have all officers account for personnel and call in by unit to command. Operations, command. Operations, go ahead. Don't have any interior units outside yet. Command engine 4. Operations, I need to account for engine 4. Operations to command, we have every firefighter out of the building.
With everyone out of the building and accounted for, command breathed a momentary sigh of relief. But they still had the task of trying to save 64-year-old Hoch and a brand new science library 50 feet to the south.
We've known for a long time that we have weak water on the university. We've only got 3 hydrants for the entire Jayhawk Boulevard.
The Lawrence Fire Department's jurisdiction includes the University of Kansas campus with its 126 buildings. But because the university is state-owned, the fire department has no jurisdiction when it comes to codes or inspections.
The frustrating part of it is that we're fighting the fires. We're sending our people, we're sending the equipment up there, and we're putting them in dangerous situations, and we're not being provided with the resources. So what we do is we adapt to that. If we have a situation, we know what the water supply is, we know what the limitations are, and just as we said when we identified the water problem, if there's a major fire, we don't have the water to do the job we need to do, and you need to know that.
McSwain says keeping an open dialogue with property owners is important, no matter what lies in your jurisdiction.
I recommend that you notify the property owner that this problem exists and how that limits your operation. Number 2, I recommend that you let your people know that these limitations are there, and especially your command officers, and they're to operate keeping in mind what the environment is. And they should know and realize that they can't operate to the full extent that they would if all the resources or the building was built according to the way it should be built. And number 3, obviously you notify your boss, whether it's the city manager, council, whatever, what you can and can't do in that situation and why you can't do some things.
Hoch's old stone facade was saved by firefighters in an effort to preserve whatever they could of the historic building. And now talk is underway on how to preserve Hoch's past and determine its future. In Lawrence, Kansas, I'm Nancy Higgins for American Heat.
As we said last month, we'll be adding hard training